This short video is part of a series designed to highlight how ServiceNow customers can start to identify process improvements using process mining evaluation projects that have been made available to them as of the Xanadu release. In Yokohama, we added 2 more evaluation use cases, and this session will focus on one of them, specifically for HR case management. These projects were designed to give some examples to every ServiceNow customer the power of process mining in their own data. And these curated projects will allow our customers to provide examples of how inefficiencies exist in their environments. And for this example, we'll focus on HR case management that you see here. And depending on your role, if you have an HR role, you should see the HR evaluation project in your process mining workspace. So let's get started. And the first place you would find these evaluation projects is in the process mining workspace. You can find them in the workspaces tab and search for that workspace. So right from here, we will search for process mining, and you can find that workspace and bring you to this process project screen. You'll see one of 3 projects, or perhaps all of them, depending on your role. If you have an HR role, you should see this evaluation project available to you. It will be in one of 2 states, new or available. If it's a new, it hasn't been analyzed yet. If it's available, we can dive in right away. But just to give you a quick run through on how we should analyze this, if we need to analyze it, we will go to the 3 dots in our card for our project and select the Mine Project Sample. Then we can begin. Now that we've analyzed our HR case evaluation project, we can dive into the results. The first thing we'll see is our Summary and Insights tab within our project to show some metrics and analytics of the data that we analyzed. Some of the first things we see, we have our 2,700 records. We also see 15 days of average duration and even 540 routes to closure, which may indicate overly complex inefficiencies within my HR case environment. All right, so the first thing we'll see also some other metrics, average time to completion, as well as distribution of records. As we scroll down, we also see improvement opportunities, which is another great way to surface inefficiencies using both pattern-based and rule-based detectors that we've included in the evaluation project. We're not going to spend time on those capabilities in this session. We'll do that in other ones that we're going to make available to everyone. In this session, we're going to focus specifically on how to detect idle time and the impact of that in our HR cases. So we start by switching over to our analyst workbench. This will provide our initial view of our discovered process map. And in this map, we're going to see 2 views, or 2 things that are changing through the life cycle of an HR case. And those are the state and the assignment group. And these are important aspects to our HR cases. But for idle time, what we're really going to focus on is the state. Now, we'd also notice a few things here too. We're seeing 20% of connections. That means we're not seeing all the routes to closure for our 2,700 records. If I move this connections up to 50%, we will see additional complexity in terms of routes to closure to process end. But in this scenario, what I really care about is the state. Why? Well, for idle time, what I really want to focus on is all of the cases that are taking longer than a day to get from ready to work in progress. My average here for 1,800 cases is 21 hours. That's not terrible, but I know there's ones that are taking longer than that. So let's focus on that. And we can do that very easily from our views. And by selecting state, it'll build and repaint our process map just to represent the state flow. This will take a few more moments in your environment the first time because it'll build that view in the background as a scheduled task. Those can be located here. You'll get a pop-up screen indicating that's happening and when it completes. But going to here, we can get to our scheduled task and see those completed tasks as well. So now that we're focusing solely on our state, we can start diving into and even getting more granular in terms of identifying our idle time. And we're going to use our transition filters to get that done. And they're under the advanced filters, but these advanced filters are super simple to use. So let's get started. If I open up our transition filters, what we're going to do, I've already have this built out. All we're going to do is select our HR case state is ready and our occurrences first. We care about the happening the first time. We're also going to say followed by our HR case state is work in progress, also caring that's the first time it happens. We're also going to add a constraint. In this case, it's going to be one defined by 1 day, anything longer than 1 day. And I'm going to start with from my first step to my second step, and it's going to have a minimum duration of 1 day. And we'll hit that add constraint. Once we're done, we'll hit apply, and it'll build that view. Again, this will be a scheduled task in the background. It'll take a few moments to build. I pre-built these just to make things a little quicker. So we had 2,700 records initially after we've analyzed all the cases that went from work in progress to from ready to work in progress longer than a day. We're down to 725, but that's a significant number, right? And we can see that here, 725 of those records. And right away, I notice one glaring thing. 5 days, 538 of these are taking 5 days to get from ready to work in progress. And if we click on that transition from ready to work in progress, we can get additional detail to give me some evidence of what happened and the impact. The impact is significant. 538 of them is a large number, number one, of the percentage. And secondly, it's taking an average of 5 days just for this transition. And there's 7 years of additional inefficiency packaged up in these 538 cases. And right from here, we can also see from our histogram some evidence of duration. Some of these taking a lot longer than 5 days. In fact, I have some that are taking as much as 2 weeks and even as long as 5 months. And we can drill into any one of these and look at those records and start investigating further. But right from here, we can get some additional information as well. We can investigate. We can look at the records, which provide some evidence and understanding why these are taking 5 days. In fully licensed environments beyond evaluation project, we also have other investigative tools like work note analysis, which will analyze the unstructured data in work notes that agents have in those cases that provide evidence of why it took so long to get into work in progress. Requester intent, cluster analysis, analyzing the description and short description of these cases to provide some evidence of what causes these type of cases to take this long, and even root cause analysis, which again could provide some key indicators of why it took this long to get from ready to work in progress. Some great tools right there to provide some evidence. An evaluation project, you have the ability of looking at those records right from there. And that'll just, again, if you click on this, it will build a list of all of those records in the background for you, and that'll come up as an action for you as well. And each one of these you can drill into, again, to understand all these transitions. Again, we focus on this ready to work in progress, and leveraging the breakdown filters and variation analysis give you other tools to start understanding and comparing who's impacting, who's contributing to this 5 days. So right from here, our biggest contributor is global talent, right? They're the ones that are taking the most amount of time or the most number of records. Global people care, they're the ones, they're providing about a month of average time. So you can start slicing and dicing this based on these breakdowns that we provided in the evaluation project, there are 4 of them that we included: HR service, assignment group, open by department, as well as priority. So when we took a look at those records, I generated that list. We can actually take a look at them now. And that provides a quick way to look at those records and start looking at them individually, or even I like looking at, which short descriptions or do we see big clusters of. And this is, an example of how looking at data in large groups can provide real value. If we see that, we have either, in this case, I'm looking at change start date. Why is it taking that long to get work in progress? Can't we make this potentially self-service, or maybe route this to the right team quicker? Is there an opportunity to get these into work in progress to the right teams in a more efficient manner? So not only you have breakdown filters available to you, but you also have another great tool, which is variation analysis. And this, as I mentioned earlier, we talked about number of routes, right? And those are highlighted here. For by 2,700 records, we had 540 routes. In our variation analysis, we can start looking at our biggest contributors to those routes, right? We may expect to have maybe just a shortened list of closure routes, but in this case, we have a bunch. And maybe we expect some variability, but we see we have some that are going from ready to work in progress, waiting acceptance. You can see those routes on the bottom of the map here as I highlight over them. But what's really interesting when we start looking at this, we can start slicing and dicing even our variations. In this case, we could look at most records. So our biggest contributors, 214 records out of these 540, we can see that route. We're seeing a number of waiting acceptance, right? We can also look at the outliers, the ones that are taking the most steps, right? In this case, I have some cases that are taking 27 steps, right? They're taking a week, 6 days, 2 weeks, a lot of variability, a lot of complexity. Can we do better there? And again, we can highlight down to just 2 records, hit apply, and dive into just those 2 records in the process map and even to those records. So what we discovered and looked at today is the ability to identify idle time within your HR cases very easily by leveraging the transition filter for anything for longer than a day. Thank you for joining us today. We have 2 other sessions that focus on HR case, one for multi-hop and one for identifying automation opportunities.